and welcome to the Sega Lounge. My name's Casey. I'm your host, as per usual, and this is the podcast that's all about Sega, the games, the music, the community, and everything in between. And as per usual, this podcast isn't the same thing if I'm alone, so it's a good thing I'm not. And today we have the return of professor, author, game historian Ken Horowitz. Hello, Ken. Welcome back.
Hi, how you doing? Thank you for
Doing
having me.
great. Yeah, always a pleasure to have you on the show. It's always a
Pleasure to
good
be here.
time when we get to talk Sega together. Yeah. So, Ken, obviously hailing from the distant land of Sega16.com, uh, which is a website that is highly recommended for any Sega fan. You've been on the show a few times, but Ken, for people who maybe are new to the show, who haven't heard of Sega16.com, would you like to briefly tell people what they can expect if they visit your website?
Sure. Sega 16 is a website devoted to Sega's hardware legacy, all its consoles, arcade work, and we've been around since 2004. And we do reviews, features, deep dive histories, interviews on every aspect of Sega's arcade legacy.
Excellent. Excellent. That's a very good summary of what the website is. Yeah, and you can find reviews on games on several platforms. So maybe people are thinking, oh, Sega 16, it's 16-bit, so Genesis, Mega Drive. Not really. It's everything. So do check
So
out
we started
Sega 16.
with originally just Genesis, Sega CD, and 32X, and then in 2008 we added Master System and Game Gear reviews, and then I think 2 or 3 years later we added Dreamcast and Saturn and arcade, and SG-1000. So we cover everything now.
Yeah, yeah. Excellent. By the way, so from the last, like, let's say 12 months, I don't know when you were last on the show. I think you were on the show a few months ago for the challenge episode, for one of the
Mhm,
challenges.
mhm.
But let's say like last year, what is one or two articles or reviews or whatever that you feel really proud to have on Sega 16? Putting you on
Well,
the spot here.
we recently put up we put up a lot of good stuff lately. We recently put up a behind the design on Scud Race, covering the conception, design, and release of that machine. On the arcade version of Moonwalker. Both these articles include information translated from Japanese that has never been used in or seen in English before. And over the summer, we did a 3-part history of Sega Pinball. Uh, the first part covers Japan in the 70s, the second part covers Spain throughout the 80s, and then the third part is Sega Pinball in the United States from 94 to 1999. That has a lot of information that was only available in trade journals. The Japanese version includes interviews with former Sega person who was an executive and worked on pinball back in the 1970s, and they're really in depth, and I'm really proud of them. When we put up one in June, one in July, one in August, I broke them into 3 parts because they were so huge. I think the Sega Pinball, the third part, the US, that one's almost 9,000 words alone. So they're very comprehensive.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, highly recommended. A lot of like stuff I had no clue about, but you really go into a lot of detail here and give us a lot of like examples of specific machines. Some I didn't even know existed. So even licensed stuff and everything. So really, really cool stuff. Do check that out. Yeah. Okay, but we're not here to talk about the arcade today. No, the arcades. We're here to talk about actually a 16-bit game, a Genesis or a Mega Drive game, COMIX ZONE. That's what this episode is all about today. Yeah, because and believe it or not, I try to hit this is an episode months in the making. Not in the making, but in like in my mind, I said I want to do an episode on the 30th anniversary of Comic Zone, and I discussed this with a few people. But sadly, Comic Zone, and I came to realize Comic Zone is, maybe because it's so hard. I don't know. It's not really. I don't think it gets the love it deserves. Um,
No.
no, so it was. I was really happy when you said yes, and you agreed to come on the show, because I think we the game deserves us to like to uh, share some love, and share some of our own memories of playing it, and there's some facts as well, because I know you have covered this game on Sega 16 as well, and you're probably, you have a lot of facts to share, some interesting stuff to share about this. But I wanted to start with, first of all, Ken, what is Comic Zone? So, how would you define what Comic Zone is, and why is it
Um,
important to you?
well, side scroll. It's Comic Zone is basically a side-scrolling brawler, and when you get down to the basics. Um, and the gameplay isn't overly complex. It's not combo heavy like that you would expect in a game like Streets of Rage 2 or something like that. But what it has is an atmosphere and a charm that, to me at least, no other game on the Genesis has. Um, you play as a character drawn into a comic book by a villain, and you have to fight your way through it, and you go from panel to panel, fighting comic book enemies, and the villain draws the enemies that on the screen for you to fight, and I like the look of it. I like the premise. I think there was so much more they could have done with it if they had been able to make a sequel, which was planned but canceled. And it's just, it has this flavor that other brawlers on the Genesis, other beat 'em ups on the Genesis just don't have.
That's true. That's for sure, right? And uh, I think the main thing that people will talk about whenever they talk about Comic Zone is the visuals, right? So it really feels like you're inside a comic book. This is probably something that we hear a lot of, about a lot of games, but it's never as true as with Comic Zone, I feel, because you do really are inside a comic book. That's the whole story, right? So Sketch Turner is the protagonist, and he's an artist, and he gets pulled into his own comic book by the villain Mortis, right? And so he has to go from, like you said, from panel to panel. And one of the things that I really enjoyed is like when you get to like punch an enemy, or kick an enemy and send them, or you rip the panel, the wall of the panel, and send them flying into another panel of the comic. That's really fun. That's a really cool effect that I blew my mind back in the day. I
I like
remember
little
this.
details.
Yeah, sorry,
Hmm?
please.
No, no, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I remember getting this late, obviously, into the life of the Mega Drive for me here in
Mhm.
Europe, and I don't think at that point I don't think I was expecting something. How can I say this? Not that I was jaded or anything, but we had seen a lot of great stuff, and so I thought I had seen every concept. Like,
Mhm.
as a kid, I saw, oh, this is just like a comic book hero, of course. Like it's like playing a Superman game or whatever it is. But this truly blew my mind. This idea was novel, and really well executed. So it was really, really something that, to to my mind as a kid, was amazing. Yeah.
I really like the details, little details like you mentioned about the enemy ripping the panel. Like even at the very end when you go to fight the boss, the artwork kind of uh devolves into concept art, almost unfinished, that it doesn't have color and it's just like pencil, just a penciling. That was really cool because it I mean, at the time in the 90s I was really big into comic books. I still like comic books, but I was a huge collector, and to see like, a video game about comic books that wasn't about a comic book character or superhero like Spider-Man or whatever. Uh it was just so different, you know. And Comic Zone was unfortunately one of those games like Ristar that came out like at the very end of the Genesis. Not the end of the, I mean, the Genesis was still around, but it came at the very
Mhm.
what I would refer to like the very end of its high point because by 1995 you had the PlayStation and the Saturn, Jaguar, and 3DO were out, and even though most people didn't run out and buy a Jaguar 3DO, but you had this sense like the new generation was there and 16-bit consoles were going to be old news, and so unfortunately games like Comic Zone and Ristar just ended up like arriving right into the bargain bin and they just got overlooked, you know, and it's a shame because there's some the those are two really great games, and Restar is wonderful, both the Game Gear and the Genesis version, and Comic Zone is just, you know, it's just I mean, I remember playing it for the first time and just telling my friends like, you know, why isn't everybody else playing this? This is, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
everybody's talking about the Saturn, the PlayStation, everything, but like there's still great games on the Genesis. I mean, this is, you know, this is still fresh and this is still something different. Like, you know, this game's
Mhm.
awesome. Why aren't people playing it? You know, and and to this day, you know, a lot of people, like you said, if you mention Comic Zone, the only thing they remember is, oh, that game's really hard. You know,
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned Ristar because that's actually another game that we did a special episode about this season. However, that one I had people like willing to come on the show. Yes, let's talk about Ristar because I usually like to have like 2, 3 guests on at the
hmm
same time, but sadly I wanted to have you and 1 or 2 more people, but sadly, they were never really played the game that much, just a little bit too hard. So yeah, and
yeah,
I said,
a lot of
"Man,
people I knew,
you're missing out."
a lot of people I knew, they would play through like they'd play the first level and they'd find it too hard, and then they would just give up after that. I'm like, but you know, you play through
Yeah,
hard games all the time. I don't know why this one would be any different. I mean, it's not impossible. It's not a game that you. I think also is the fact if I may be mistaken, but I don't really recall there being any cheat codes or like maybe if you had a game genie, but I remember there being any codes at the time that you could
there
just
are
like
actually. There are actually.
there are
Yes, yes.
there
And
are.
so if people
I
are
didn't have the
watching,
one I played.
yeah, if you're just listening to the podcast and you wanna go to the YouTube version of this, you're gonna watch me play through the game, and I'm amazing at it, which I'm really not. I just used the invincibility cheat code because I wanted to. Because the
Ah,
game really is
mm,
hard, and I wanted to record the whole game,
ah,
and I didn't really have much time. So I actually there's an invincibility cheat code. There's a level select, I believe, as well.
I didn't have
Um,
that code back in the day.
yeah, yeah.
But see
It's
now I wouldn't have any problem with that because now, you know, at my age, I don't really, I'm not trying to you know, get good and you know, beat the game
prove
before my friends, whatever.
anything.
I just want to be able to play through the game you know, so I think now if I probably play through it again, I would probably you know, use a code because I just want to be
Mhm.
able to play through the game and enjoy it and see it completely and without having to, you know, some people still enjoy that kind of, you know, the challenge and all that, but I'm not trying to impress anyone. But I didn't have that code back in the day. I wish I did.
Yeah, me neither. Me neither. But yeah, thanks to the internet, you can find anything on the internet these days. So yeah,
Mm.
and we're looking at like the first level right now. But even in the first level, you can see how creative the game is. So a few things that you can do throughout the game. For example, Sketch has a rat called Roadkill, and you can use the rat to sniff out objects like items that you can use, and it's very cool how you do it or how the rat does it. I died. Okay, the invincibility doesn't protect you against like pitfalls. It's I'm sorry. But the rat just like rips through the page to find
hmm
hidden items. So again, very cool visual cue there. Very inventive. Things like this is not like a puzzle heavy game. really have to think a lot. And but there are some cool puzzle elements as well. We saw one earlier. You like there's a fire below you, and if you or some kind of trap, and if you throw one of those like exploding crates onto it, you destroy the trap, so you're safe. So there's some cool elements, light puzzle elements there that also add to the experience. So I wouldn't say just like it's not like a side scrolling beat 'em up uh, alone, right? Like there's more to it as well, even though it's fairly short, right? It's like I believe it's like
Hmm.
3 chapters long, which each chapter is divided into like 2 parts, if I'm not mistaken. So like
I think
6
you could.
levels, I would say.
Yeah, the game. I don't think it would take an hour to beat. Maybe 40 minutes, depending if you're good.
Yeah.
Which most people were not with. So it would probably take a lot longer, but it's not that long a game. That's why if and
Mhm.
I've seen. I mean, I think I've seen. It wasn't a long play. I think I saw somebody play it on a video, like a Twitch stream or something, and I think they beat the game in like 40 minutes or something, and they weren't using a code,
Probably
so that's why I
summer
like.
games
So
done quick, right?
I don't remember, but
That's
I
probably
know that it wasn't like a game that takes. You can beat it in under an hour, and it's
mhm.
and it's it's a question of like knowing, when to use roadkill, knowing when to how to act, how to work with the traps and stuff and the puzzles, and familiarizing yourself with it, just like any other game of like that. Familiarize yourself with the enemy patterns and which type of attack works best and things like that. And
Yeah.
and yeah, you're not going to do it on your first time, but you don't want to blow through the game the first time you play it either. So it's not. I think it's. I think the difficulty is overblown sometimes. That maybe over the years people have made it out to be more than it really is. It's not an easy game, but it's not impossibly hard either.
That's true, and it's part of the whole experience that we had back in the day,
Hmm.
right? We didn't, if you think about it, many of the games we played, and we spent maybe weeks or months playing the game over and over again, but they're really short. It's just they
Yeah.
were somewhat hard compared to like modern day Saturns, and we were easily entertained as well. It
Yeah,
was
but
the
that's why the game is so hard, because if it's games that are short tend to be, back in the day, games that were shorter tended to be harder, so that would last longer.
it's
So
true,
if
yeah.
but I mean, even back
Uh,
then, if you didn't buy it, it was a good rental for the weekend. You would have fun with it. So I
mhm,
don't know why a lot of people are so down on the difficulty.
mhm.
Are they
What
watching us, or are
we're
they watching you play?
No, we're yeah, we're watching a replay of one of those games done quick runs, and
Oh,
so
okay.
apparently they're gonna complete the game in like 20 minutes.
Oh, wow.
So, and which is interesting. I don't know if it's like using some sort of like it seems to be struggling with very easy parts. I don't know, with like that easy puzzle, but I don't know. Maybe there's
Well,
some
speed
sort of
runs and
like
things like that, I don't trust, because like I've seen videos that people beat like Dark Souls with their feet or something like that, and like, oh, if he can do that, it can't be that hard. And like, oh yeah, it's hard, but but uh, but no, I think
Sometimes
that
it's like
I like.
they take advantage of glitches and stuff. So maybe there's some of that involved here. Let me just try to move ahead a little bit to see if they really do it. Like 12 minutes. Let's see. And it's
See,
the
there's
final
what I
boss
said about the
fight.
concept art.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, they're doing
the
it like
unfinished pencils. 20 minutes. They did it in 20 minutes.
almost
Yeah, 19
19.
minutes.
So yeah, that's amazing. And they're not
Wow,
using the invincibility cheat code either. So
19 minutes.
there we go.
Wrong switch. Wrong switch.
Nope. She's gonna
Oh, he's
die.
trying to.
She's gonna die.
It's the switch on the top. It's the switch on the top.
Yeah. So podcast listeners, we're really enthralled by this. This is yeah. There's a okay. It's figuring it out.
All right, there you go.
Yes, there you go. Yeah.
So he could have done it
They're
30
finishing the
seconds
game
earlier.
a lot earlier. There's a lot at the beginning that he like seems to be struggling with. So, oh, he died. Still, he wasn't able to save Alyssa. Yeah,
Oh no, he
yeah.
spent too long.
He took too long. He took too long. Yeah, which is something interesting about this game as well. Which is like multiple endings, like a couple of endings, I guess. You have the good
That's
ending and the bad ending.
like Revenge of Shinobi and Spider-Man versus the Kingpin that you had to save the girl,
Mhm.
beat the boss in time to save the girl.
Yeah. Even Streets of Rage, I guess, could become the bad guy. So there are two types of endings, right? Which is something that was fun back in the day and still is. Yeah.
I always liked in Revenge of Shinobi, I always liked letting her die, getting the bad ending because the music, the song My Lover was better. It's like, sorry,
Very
sweetheart, you
true.
have to die. I want to hear this song.
Even I think when you become the bad guy in Streets of Rage, I think the song is better as well, I think.
Hmm.
Yeah, I never thought about that.
Bad guys
Yeah.
get all the jams.
There you go. Yeah. Um, so we were talking before we started recording, but you interviewed the game's director, Peter
Yeah,
Morowick, I
he's
believe.
yeah, he did the all the art and design, the concept. It was kind of his baby.
Yeah. Any interesting bits of information that you got from that interview that you want to share with us, if you remember?
Yeah, I think I only asked him a couple of questions, but he did mention that the game basically had to be approved twice. It was approved. He showed it to management. Tom Kalinske, the Sega of America president, liked it a lot and gave it the green light. And then they had to put it on the shelf for to make Sonic Spinball because they needed the Sonic game out. And then when the next round of concept pitches came around, he pitched it again. And he was lucky that Kalinske remembered the game. And so he had to basically get the game approved twice. But by then, the game was released, just around the time of the PlayStation launch and when the Saturn was
Mm.
out, and supposedly, and that didn't help its sales at all. Like I said, I remember going to Toys R Us and seeing that game, seeing Restart, seeing the Sega Nomad like in the clearance bins. Like
Oh my
I
god.
I I discovered the Sega Nomad in a clearance bin, like a portable Genesis, and it was in the clearance bin. So it's it's uh it's a shame if it had been released um the first time it was approved, it probably would have done a
Mhm.
lot better, but it
Yeah.
came out a little bit too late.
So yeah,
So, but
it
now the
released September 1995 in Japan,
yeah,
July I believe in the US, and October in Europe. So
yeah, so the Saturn was already out, and the which came out in May, and then it came out in like a month and a half later. The PlayStation came out, so it got completely swallowed up by that. Because
Mhm.
I remember very vividly at that time there were a lot of people who they were just like trading in their Genesis and Super Nintendos towards the PlayStation. I decided like with games like restarting games like COMIC ZONE that I wasn't going to get rid of my Genesis. I wanted to keep it, and I was like, well, I will take all these games that are going right into clearance. Like, yes, please, give them to me. And I remember going to a friend on Sega 16. We have a series called Stories from the Book of Genesis that are stories about when
Mhm.
from gaming. And the very first one I did was about a friend I had named Juan who every time you went to his house to trade games, you ended up trading with his mother because his mother was a gamer. And so
Okay.
you would start talking to Juan and you'd end up trading with his mom. And I remember that to get the PlayStation, I went and traded some things to him for his Genesis games. And then I took those Genesis games and traded them in to reserve the PlayStation because I didn't want to get rid of mine. And so I was still playing games like uh, Comic Zone and Restar when the
Hmm.
PlayStation came out, but that coming out at that time, that was like the worst possible time to release a 16-bit 2D game.
That's
The other
true.
thing that he
Yeah.
told me that stood out to me was that there was supposed to be a sequel, but it was he and the programmer Adrian Stevens. They went and decided to go and form their own independent studio to work on games for the Genesis, but they were convinced to come back and be like a independent branch of the Sega Technical Institute. And the sequel just never worked out. And I remember I asked him, you know, does he would he still like to do a sequel? And he said yes, that he very much would like to do it. He thinks that it could work in 3D,
Mm.
but I don't know how they would do it. One thing that he mentioned is interesting because I think the interview I did with him was, oh my God, what was that interview? Let me see if I can. Okay, it was multiple
2007.
years ago. Oh,
Yeah, April
okay, so
20th,
that was 18 years
2007.
ago.
Yeah.
And one thing he said was that he didn't think that comic books were popular enough anymore for people to be interested in that kind of game. And so now with all the, I mean, I guess they would have to make it manga for people to wanna to be in to which would think about it like if Sketch, gets drawn into a manga, that would be kind of
Mm.
cool. But I don't know how they would do it because if he thought comic books weren't popular enough back then, now I think manga sales make up over 70% of the U.S. comic market. So
Oh.
I don't
Mhm.
know how you would do a game like this. It would be
Yeah.
cool if he made like a second character who was like maybe a Japanese manga character, and Sketch joins him, so
Hmm.
it's two-player mode, and they go into a manga and have pages, where you instead of scrolling left to right, you scroll right to left and things like that. That
Hmm.
you know that 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 actually sounds like a pretty good idea. The
What
more
you
I think
actually
about
do
it,
as well here, right? So there are multiple paths in the game,
yeah,
which is something
that's another thing that I
interesting.
liked about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
because and that's another thing. It's short, but having those branching paths, you could go back and play it and go, okay, last time I went left, I'm going to go
Hmm.
down this time. What
Hmm.
what what is that? What enemies or what items will I find there?
Yeah. Even some specific like special items, bonus items you only get if you take a specific branching path, or even I believe there's something that I found during this playthrough. I think it's like it's a door, but you don't really see that it's a door. So if you break it, a hidden path gets revealed, and you get like two
Hmm.
special items or whatever. So there are some secrets as well. So that's part of the fun as well, for sure.
I don't remember. It's been a while since I played it, but I do remember that when you get roadkill, you have to go like you have a choice of directions, and if you go in one
Mhm.
direction, you can rescue roadkill. But I don't recall if you go in the opposite direction. I think you find him later on, but you end up having to go later without him, more of the game without him.
I think it's basically the same thing. You just have to fight like another enemy or so.
Hmm.
I actually did that
Yeah.
yesterday. I believe it's the first level, right? And if you anytime you lose roadkill because he can get killed, I believe, or you can like leave him behind or whatever. Every time you start a new level, new chapter, you get another. You get him back. So I
Hmm.
believe. Um, but yeah, but depending on some of the decisions you make, the game can be harder or easier as well, right? So how you use your items as well. There's a very cool thing that I only so when I tried, wanted to record footage and I wanted to find cheat codes, as one does. So I wouldn't like waste a lot of time. Um, and I found something that I never knew about. Did you know that if you press the attack button for like 5 seconds or whatever it is, uh, Sketch rips out a bit of paper, makes a paper airplane, and attacks like sends the airplane flying, and that's a very powerful attack that like one hits the like kills the enemies, and when the paper airplane comes back, if you don't duck, you get hit by it and
It hits you.
get damaged as well. Yeah. Never knew about that.
I never knew about that.
I don't know if I recorded that, but maybe. Um, but yeah, so we're still finding secrets. There's another something else that is special about this game is the music. I think it's
Hmm.
very specific, right?
Howard Drawson.
Howard Drawson, and his band as well involved in this. It's a very specific type of like sound.
Hmm.
Like it's very Howard Drawson as well. If you know his other works, you can tell that it's Drawson working on this. Um,
This the CD that
oh, there we go.
included with
There we
the game
go.
was
Look,
oh, there you go. See,
there you go. Yeah.
the CD that a music CD that came included because the game came packed with a music CD.
Hmm.
It was originally supposed to be uh the songs from the game, but like recorded by Howard Johnson and his band.
Yeah.
And they decided because it was the mid 90s. I mean, that's why Sketch has the whole ponytail and the glasses. He's got to have an attitude and be, rocker because it's the mid 90s. Everything's extreme. But they decided to instead go with a sampler with different bands and stuff. But Marwick, I believe, said that that they did release versions, a limited amount of those CDs. I think with the earliest versions or something. I'm pretty sure you could find that online. And
Hmm.
I would
Yeah.
really, really like to hear this because I love Howard Joss's music and I like the music in the game a lot. And to be able to hear, you know, played with real instruments as a band, that would be awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there's an album. Yeah, and the band was called Roadkill, if I'm not mistaken. His band was called Roadkill. So, yeah, and that's part of the experience as well. And it's like you said, it's like it was the '90s, and everything was extreme. Uh, even like the X on sketch turners, like shorts, like
Uh,
extreme. Um, and his attitude as well. So
mhm.
if you press down a couple of times, like 3 or 4 times or five, I can remember, he farts because why not? Did you know that?
No.
Something that I think I knew about that. I think I knew about that, but I'm not sure. I know that I remember when I paused the game when I was a kid. I think he screams like Sega. Does the Sega scream or something if the game is paused. And I remember that from when I was a kid. But yeah, lots of really cool hidden things here in the game. And again, it was the '90s, so definitely. And look at this cool part, like you said before, like you can see the hand drawing an enemy. That's that's
Mhm.
really cool.
Well,
Yeah.
and him farting at this time doesn't surprise me. I mean, this is cartoons at this time were Beavis and Butthead, Ren and Stimpy, right?
Yeah. So yeah, very cool game. I think the like in your interview with Peter, with the programmer and director of the game, also mentioned this. There were games later that were probably influenced by Comic Zone. That did. There are some Spider-Man movie
Hmm.
games actually that did some similar stuff. But I think when I think of like a spiritual successor to Comic Zone, I think Beautiful Joe. I'm not sure if you've ever played that game on,
Yeah,
I believe, the
yeah.
GameCube, right? Was the closest thing perhaps that we ever
That
got
was like
to
that was like 2.5D, right? That wasn't full like three
yeah,
dimensional. I
yeah,
think that
yeah.
would work if they decided to do a Comic Zone sequel. I think that would, especially thinking, today how there's been a resurgence in popularity of retro style games, but with like
Mhm.
modern, you play games like Shovel Knight and things like that look and sound like the old games, but they have the frame rate and they have the colors, and then you don't have to worry about the slowdown and things like that.
And the
So,
quality of life element as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I
Mhm.
think that now maybe if he, I mean, look at the new Shinobi game, right?
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
so I think that maybe there might actually be an environment that I don't know if he would pitch it to Sega how receptive they would be. They might not even remember Comic Zone but but I honestly think that there might be an environment for it now if they did it that way.
I believe so. And there's I believe there's like a special acceptance for every anything retro these days, and the indie scene is very prolific as well. So I would
Mhm.
think that, like, even if you don't go 3D, like a 2.5D, whatever it is, like you said, just like Shinobi, I wouldn't mind at all to see Lizard Cube tackling Comic Zone
Yeah,
next. They're
yeah.
really good at what they do, and thinking about like what they could do in terms of art style after what they did with Streets of Rage and Shinobi would be really really cool, right? Um, Obviously, cell shaded graphics are something that were all the craze in the early 2000s, I believe. Beautiful
Hmm.
Joe is an example, just a radio, and so doing something like that, like with that comic book feel, or even the manga feel, like you said, that would be amazing. And I think that would be it would be well received if done well. Obviously, it's not just the visuals; it's about the
Yeah.
game. But I believe it would work. People are probably things like Power Rangers, Ninja Turtles. I believe
Uh,
that there's been a
yeah.
resurgence in terms of video games with those
They,
like '90s characters. So why not?
they made with Shredder's Revenge. They managed to take a formula that you look at the old school Ninja Turtle games and you're like, well, they've done this to death. What else can they do with it? And they managed to find all kinds of new ways to make it interesting and fun. And and I think that there's I think there's room for it. I would like to see it.
Mhm. Yeah.
I would play it.
Yeah. And by the way, Sega has announced a while ago now, I believe like 3 or 4 years ago, but they have announced a Comic Zone movie adaptation. So
Uh-huh.
I don't
So
know.
they haven't forgotten about it entirely.
I don't know if that's still coming or not because they've announced several different like TV
Yeah.
and movie projects, and I'm not sure if we're gonna see all of them coming to fruition. But Comic Zone was
Well,
one of them,
well,
so
well, well, there's a Toe Jam and Earl movies in the works.
that's true.
The game's
Still,
creator, Greg Johnson, said that it's the same studio that made Sonic the Hedgehog
hmm
is working on it, and I think they've done 3 script revisions. He says it's really good, and
they're trying to
the
find a
Sega's supposedly
director.
really enthusiastic. Sony's enthusiastic. I think it's Sony's the company that's going to distribute it, and they're very uh, enthusiastic about it.
Yeah,
So why
yeah,
not? I mean,
yeah.
Toe Jam and Earl is an even older property than. Well, the thing is, Toe Jam and Earl has also had more games, so they've been around, in the public eye a little bit longer. But yeah, I honestly think that if they planned, even if the movie Comic Zone movie were not to come out, the fact that they even got that far, that they pitched a movie and Sega was like, yes, means that there's some
hmm
awareness of the brand. So Morwick might actually have a shot if he were to
Yeah.
uh, pitch a manga based 2 player. He could totally steal my idea. He could totally take it out. That might actually, Sega might actually be receptive, and that's the
Mhm.
biggest obstacle, right? Because you need the license.
The other thing that I think we should consider is the amount of times that Comic Zone has been re-released throughout the
Uh huh.
years, right?
Yeah.
So like it's out up there with like the Mega Drive Sonics, with Ristar as well, with Shinobis, with the Streets of
Hmm.
Rages.
The
Um,
Golden
it
Axe.
was on Xbox Live Arcade, I believe, in like probably the PlayStation, whatever it was called, that's the line of games that they released with Sega.
Hmm.
It was on like the Genesis collections on consoles, on Steam.
Hmm.
It was on the Mini, the Genesis Mini.
Was it was released in Sega Forever? I think it
It
was.
was
I'm not
Sega
sure.
Forever as well. Yeah, yeah, it was part of
Hmm.
it. Uh, RIP. But yes, Nintendo
Hmm.
Switch Online, I believe, also has Comic Zone in its Genesis or Mega Drive like
So
service app.
somebody at Sega of America still remembers, and so I wouldn't be surprised if there's one guy at Sega who's been there for like 20 years, who's just like every time they're going to pick the games, he's like, "Comic Zone, Comic Zone." He just
What
fights and
about
makes sure it
Comic
gets in
Zone?
there.
Or it's like you're like, yes, Comic Zone guy. Yeah, yeah, please do something with that. Oh, okay.
So he comes in the room. They're like, "Yes, Brad, we're going to include Comic Zone." You know.
Please shut up. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's something that also makes me not understand people who think Comic Zone wouldn't work today. So I believe, and I think again, going back to Peter's interview, and I actually have the what he said, like times have changed, and comic books aren't as popular anymore.
Yeah,
Ironically, was
yeah.
the rise of video games that contributed to the decline of comics. What have we done? um, but that being said, superheroes and comic book heroes are as popular, perhaps, as they've ever been, thanks to
Hmm.
movies and other types of media. So I think it could work. I think it would work. So, real quick, Ken, apart from the manga idea, what would be the perfect Comic Zone sequel in 2026? Let's say for you.
It would have to be two-player. I'd like to see two-player mode. I'd like to see maybe selectable characters that you could be. Like there's a special attack that Sketch has that he can turn like into a superhero. It would
Hmm.
be nice to see if maybe in certain stages he could like adopt certain super powers or personas to complete certain stages. That would be cool. Like maybe in one stage he'd be able to nothing superhero-y like he could fly, but it would be cool if he had the ability to like to jump really high. If he could like maybe a certain power up that would give him superpowers or something for each stage, because at the end it says that he went his comic book was like sold out instantly and everything, and he had a big comic career. So we would assume that if they did a sequel, he would have already done other comics and have other characters. So I would like to see maybe
Yeah,
they incorporate, ideas, and that Sketch would be able to adopt the powers of those characters that he created, you know, depending on the stage, something like that. That'd be cool.
that's actually a very good idea. Yeah, I
Mhm.
completely agree. So 2.5D or 2D, yeah, is that the way
Yeah,
to go?
yeah. If
Uh,
2D, if it's you're gonna do it like in the style of Shinobi or the new Shinobi, or 2.5D if you want to go 3D.
mhm.
Um, I don't
Yeah,
know, maybe self shading or
like
or
side
or
scrolling, but like the environments could be more detailed. So like
yeah,
3D
yeah,
ish, right? Yeah.
yeah.
I
It has
I
to have the
honestly
comic
don't
book.
know if how this could work in 3D and like um because it's very
Yeah,
specific. This is like a comic book.
well,
Unless you change it
exactly.
like to a movie or something, and still,
It if you want to, I would like them if they were to do a sequel to maintain that comic book page panel by panel, make the panels longer. Like comic books also have
mhm,
splash pages, which are images that take up maybe 2 pages or things like that. So you can have bigger panels, longer stages like that. But I would like them to maintain the comic format. And comics are a 2D medium, so I
yeah,
think that two D or HD 2D or 2.5D would be the best way to go.
mhm,
I don't
yeah.
think I think it would lose something if it went to 3D.
We actually have on Sega 16 on that interview page. You have this like panel. I believe maybe Peter sent it to you.
Hmm.
Probably. So it's like concept art of sorts for a 3D Comic Zone game. This would be interesting. So the fact that if you could like move in 3D inside a panel, like go deeper into the scene or something like that, and then but still maintain the moving from panel to panel like gameplay aspect, but move around. That could be an interesting idea if done well. Not sure how you would done you would do it well, but it would be interesting. Like because from
Or you
what
could
we're
have
so yeah.
uh huh. Go, you were saying?
No, I said for listeners, we're actually looking at this. I'll link this in the show notes so everyone can take a look. But it looks like the last one, the last like square on the bottom right. It looks like he's moving in 3D, right? So he's moving
Uh,
forward,
like
deeper into the
like he
scene.
like he dropped down from the panel above
Yeah.
into that one.
Hmm.
I think maybe they could also like at the top two are like in 3D. Even if the game were 2D, that would be you could have them like come out of the page and move over to the next panel and be absorbed into the panel because
Yeah.
that looks like what is happening in the top two. Like
Yeah.
he 3D, he's standing on top of the panel, then he gets absorbed into it and drops down into the panel
Hmm.
itself. That maybe that could work. I mean, if
Could work.
you, I could see it like a Streets of Rage 4 type view. Um,
Hmm.
and then again, you'd need two players.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely have
Yeah.
two players.
Yeah, definitely like have a co-op mode would be
Mhm.
nice. Yeah. And that idea of like having different power-ups, like different sets of powers, different heroes, that would be awesome. That would be awesome. Um something that I noticed in this concept art is that like the look is slightly different, so they they could toy with like updating the look of Sketch Turner for like 2026 or
Yeah,
7 or
he
whatever.
he went from grunge rocker to Backstreet Boy in the in the, in the image there. So they would have
That's
to
true.
definitely update that look.
Yeah. So yeah, it could work. It could work. Definitely could work. And this is more like so the first game, the original game that we're celebrating today, was set in like a post-apocalyptic world in the comic,
Mhm.
right? This looks like more of a current day city look,
Uh-huh.
right?
Well,
With
if
the
it's a fight, a brawler size, like a beat 'em up, it has to have a grimy city street stage. You know, always.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
with papers blowing across the street and maybe a stray
hmm,
cat in the corner peeking
yeah.
out. You know, it seems like they all have the. I think Final Fight is the one that has a barking dog on the boardwalk stage. They always have to have something like that.
Yeah, the usual tropes. Yeah, for sure.
Hmm.
Yeah. What about the movie? What would you like to see if they actually end up if this ends up going forward? Um, would you like
Ah,
to see
well,
like a
I
straight
don't
up adaptation of the first game? Sorry, of the first game. Would you like to see it like?
I
Mm,
don't know if the well, the first response is to think I don't know if the plot is deep enough for a movie, and then you think, well, Sonic the Hedgehog, they've made three of them, and that's I mean, how deep is that plot? And those movies were great, so they'd have to flesh it out a little bit, but an adaptation of the first one. I like the concept of that. The villain is one of his own creations,
mhm.
and like wants revenge on him because he's just a drawing and he wants revenge on his creator. It's good. That's kind of cool. That would be a cool. That's kind of Tron-ish, right? That he's drawn like
Yeah.
Tron. He's drawn into the game he created. Here he's drawn into a comic book. Um, so but I don't know how would you do it. How you would do it though? Would it be everything? Would it be like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, where everything is animated except him? Would in
Mm.
CGI or something? Would it be like Tron, in which everything is live action, but it's got that look to make it look,
Mhm.
that style to make it look um, animated or whatever? I don't know how you would do it.
The way they've been doing things these days is to it's live action with like cartoony elements, but this is a very
Mhm.
specific game and story. So you would have to first of all, Sketch Turner has to be played by Chris Pratt. And please don't at me, don't comment on the I'm just kidding. Or maybe I'm not because he plays everything. Or maybe Tom Holland. No, but one of the hip Hollywood actors, I'd say. Uh, but I think it would have to start as like live action, and then they get sucked into the comic book, and they have
Hmm.
like cartooned versions of themselves. So that
He
I
couldn't
think
be a
that's the only way to go.
he couldn't be a '90s grunge rocker anymore, though. They would have to update that.
Mm, mm. Could be, I don't know. Like the '90s are what's old is new again. So I don't know. Maybe there's a lot of nostalgia going on. So it could work. It depends on how they want to do it. It depends on who they want to appeal to. If they want to appeal to the kids, obviously not.
Hmm.
What's grunge? What's rock? But what's the comic book? No. Um, but if they want to appeal to and I think Comic Zone would probably be like appealing to an older demographic, not exactly
But
like
he
Sonic.
does have a furry sidekick. So
Yeah, roadkill cosplay incoming. Yeah. Uh, but I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, it could be interesting. Could be interesting. But I'm more of whenever they announce they're turning video games or whatever it is into live action movies, I'm always like, why?
hmm.
So
Yeah.
even though I love the Sonic movies, I would much prefer to have like cartoonish, like animated versions of Sonic, like in the style of like uh, all the artists all the amazing artists that have drawn Sonic throughout the years, instead of like Sonic interacting with real life people. Okay, they're fun. I love those movies, but I would much prefer
I
like an
it's the
animated
same
version.
thing with the toy movies is they do that. They put them in a world like Transformers. They put them in a world with people, and then the movie focuses on the people. I'm like, I don't want to watch Transformers to find out whether Shia LaBeouf fixes his relationship with his parents or hooks up with Megan Fox. I want to see 20-foot robots shoot and fight each other, you know?
Yeah.
So that was at first when Sonic was announced, I was like, oh God, there are humans in it. I don't really, I don't want to. And I was like, well, in the third, it's you have Robotnik and you have you had Shadow and you had Knuckles and Tails, so there were a lot more other characters. But in the first one where it was just Sonic, I was like, oh my God, it's just going to be him and people, and I hope they just don't make the plot about the people, which is what they tend to do in these kind of things. And thankfully they
Mm.
didn't. So,
Interestingly enough, in the second one, you had more game characters, but also more human characters
uh-huh.
and more irrelevant human characters. I think they fixed that in the third one. There were some human characters as well, but not as annoying and as useless, I guess, to the actual plot of the game of the movie.
Well,
But
I love Jim Carrey as Robotnik,
oh
so
yeah,
I'm willing to
that's
give them a pass on.
that's true. That's true. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
perfect casting.
For sure, for sure. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, basically what we're saying, people, is go play Comic Zone. Go play Comic Zone.
Yes.
And if you, I'll leave right now. Actually, in editing, in post, I'll edit the cheat code for the invincibility mode. And for podcast listeners, I leave that in the show notes as well. So go play it, even if it's like if you just want to see the game through to the end, at least the first time, and then you'll find out why you should replay it in like normal mode without
Mhm.
any cheats. Okay, so do that, because I think you'll find a very interesting game, fun and deeper than you probably think. If
Yeah.
you haven't, if you've only played the first level, right, or if you've never played the game at all. Um, I would like to see Ken uh, sketch turner in Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but have you played Cross Worlds yet?
No, not yet.
Okay. So they've been announcing crossovers with like third party characters and
Uh-huh.
IPs, but also Sega characters. So far, like officially announced, we have Joker from Persona 5. Hatsune Miku, in a way, is a Sega character as well. Knights hasn't really been announced, but it's been like in a way they've like shown Knights, so people know
Uh-huh.
Knights is coming. Um, but there's a lot of speculation of how or what are the other Sega characters that they're going to add, and what other like maybe stages as well, like courses that you can race on will be.
I don't understand why this is always so difficult. They've made like three or four of these racing games, and it's like you give a Golden Axe stage, an Altered Beast stage, a Shinobi stage, a Streets of Rage stage, a Sonic stage, and let us race as all the characters, and then release more Sega characters as downloadable content. That's it. I don't know why this is so difficult.
Nope,
Give me a
nope.
stage, a House of the Dead stage. Give me a Space Channel 5 stage. Ooh
Hmm.
La La's car can be a little space saucer. If it Comic Zone, it could have a rat-shaped car, right, or something. But
Yeah,
it's not
yeah,
that
yeah.
hard. I don't understand why they always have to, leave you guessing. This should be a no-brainer.
I don't think so. We're not in Sonic and All Stars or Sonic and Sega All Stars racing territory anymore, which means it's mostly Sonic racing. It's now called Sonic Racing, which uh, I mean, I'm still hoping for characters like Ryo Hazuki from Shenmue, for example,
Hmm.
and others. But being realistic. I'm not expecting a lot. They've announced. I forgot about one, which Ichiban Kasuga from the Like a Dragon, the Yakuza games, and there will
Yeah.
be apparently. So that's three: Miku, Joker, and Kasuga. They're three of the Sega characters, and there are like on the website there are 3, 6, 10 more slots for racers. One of them is definitely Knights. That leaves us with 9 slots, at least for now, because they can always add stuff. But I don't think they're gonna go as deep into it as they went with Sonic and All Stars Racing Transformed, which was amazing and had all these characters and stages. I think we're gonna get Sonic stages mostly, um, and then a few Sega characters.
I
But
don't know. I mean, it's just all they have to do is look at Nintendo. It's like with Mario Kart. I mean, they just, every Mario Kart, they just add stages for like from different Nintendo games and stuff. And so, I mean, why is this so hard? I've
not
never.
anymore,
One thing that
though.
that no, that's true. That's true. That
Yeah,
was the latest one.
the last one, they actually went back to focusing more on Mario. So I don't know
Yeah.
who's learning from whom. I don't know.
But Sega seems to, in these types of games, Sega always seems to be so afraid of its own history. Like, oh, we don't do that because, people might not recognize it. Well, maybe they don't recognize it because you don't do anything with it, you
Mm,
know? And
yeah,
and you have a lot more people who know your history than you think. If you put a in this game, if you had a character whose car was the Hornet from Daytona, people would recognize that car.
mhm.
Maybe put, I don't know, Akira from Virtua Fighter driving the Daytona Hornet, to represent the
Yeah.
Virtua, the Model 2 games or whatever, or this, people would know
Mhm.
who that is. People would know that that's the Daytona car. So,
I'm
and whoever doesn't learn,
guessing.
no, well, then he's got to go learn. You
No, that's for sure. Yeah, Sega
know?
Education.
He's got
But
homework.
I'm guessing Shinobi, Golden Axe, Virtua Fighter, even Streets of Rage, and maybe Crazy Taxi, Jet Set Radio should be represented because some of these are games or IPs they announced they've been working on. So
Crazy Taxi should have been one of the default races. I mean, they drive a
sure,
car in the game.
sure,
You've got the character and the car already. Just did
sure.
this. That should have been one of the default characters.
If they tie this to the games they've been releasing, maybe more, maybe one or two more Yakuza characters because they're
Yeah.
extremely popular.
Mm-hmm.
I believe
Persona, maybe.
Shinobi, Persona we have already one already, but maybe another one from like Persona 3 Reload, which was or 4,
Mm-hmm.
which have been having like re-releases or remasters. Shinobi is a no-brainer with the new game. Suits of Rage, perhaps. There's a new coming. Comic Zone, like not Comic Zone. Comic Zone as well, but no. Crazy Taxi, as we said. Jet Set Radio. Virtua Fighter. There's a new Virtua Fighter. There's like a new version of Virtua Fighter 5 out, and people are playing it. And there's a new Virtua Fighter project coming soon. So
Mm-hmm.
it seems like a no-brainer to me as well to get people hyped for that by including characters from that franchise. And like, and it's, I don't know, it seems to me like it's like a very easy marketing plan. I'm no marketing expert, but I'm just saying, get people acquainted with these characters as well, even if they don't know them. Get them acquainted with the characters, and then release projects related to those characters. They will want to
Yeah.
play games with them. I think it makes
It
sense.
doesn't make any sense, for example, to say, well, we can't release we can't have, for example, Sketch Turner in the game in a rat shaped car because people don't know who he is, even though we've been releasing the game on compilations for the last
Yeah.
15 years, you know? But then why do you keep releasing the game? You know,
Yeah.
if people don't know who it is, and you think that since you've been releasing it, you know, over and over
Mhm.
and over, that people, more people are familiar with the game than you might think because you have been keeping it, in your compilations since 2001 or whatever.
Yeah. 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 This really makes sense, right? So if the game is not that special, right? Why do you keep re-releasing it?
Hmm.
So people know, they see these like comic book panels and they know, "Oh, that's Comic Zone." It's like it's very distinct, very distinctive looking. So people should know what it is. Yeah, we can only hope. So let's see what happens in terms of like Sonic Racing Crossroads. I recommend you try it, Ken. It's a card game. It's a card game with
Hmm.
Sonic and other characters, but it's really well made. But I'm really, really hoping we get some cool Sega representation, like from other Sega franchises in the coming months, because that would make it more special. To me, Sonic and All Stars Racing Transform is still the pinnacle of
Hmm.
that style of, not just the style of game, but like that style of like crossover between different Sega IPs, like the probably the ultimate celebration of Sega in a game, in a single game,
Hmm.
I think. And so there was so much love put into that game. That's I actually was a little bit sad when I saw them announcing Sonic Racing instead of like
Hmm.
Sonic and All Stars Racing or something. But it is what it is. Anyway, Ken, any other things you want to add about Comic Zone for people listening to this?
Don't pay attention to people complaining about the difficulty. Play it, try it. It might be a little bit difficult at first, as any game is when when you play it for the first time, but it will get easy as you learn the stages and you learn, the layouts of where the items are and switches and things you have to do. And it's a very fun, entertaining game that's different than your average beat 'em up. So I
Mhm.
recommend that. It's a true hidden gem, as they say.
Yeah, for sure. And it's not that in terms of like enemy variety, there's not a lot. They probably introduce, like most enemies are introduced in the first chapter, and then maybe
Hmm.
one per new chapter is introduced. So like They get harder as you progress, though. You get find the same enemies again, but they're smarter. They can block your attacks and stuff.
Uh-huh.
And that's another thing you can do. You can block attacks. So if you find like you're getting a beating, just learn to block. Like
Well, I saw like I like in and it's in the video of gameplay that you had that Sketch was fighting an enemy and he was blocking and Sketch was saying this attack is useless. You know?
yeah, because that was basically just like button
But
mashing at that
mashing.
point. Yeah, at that point, I'll be honest. And so, no, don't do that. Oh, and another thing you can do is, and this is one of those games that benefits from the 6 button controller, because you have 3 items, and I can like show that here real quick. You have 3 items on top of your health bar, right? And if you use the 6 button controller, this is not really the original one, but if you use the 6 button controller, you have ABC for jumping, attacking, and blocking, or doing something else. You can assign a specific attack to C, like for example, like the shoulder push or something like that, or like a special kick. You can actually choose which attack C is. If you don't do anything by default, C is block, so it's you protect against enemy attacks. But then XYZ at the top are automatically assigned to each of the 3 items, like the left, middle, and right items,
Mm.
which is much easier than using the 3 button controller layout. Which you had to select and press the D-pad at the same time. So that was a little bit more cumbersome. So again, one of those later games that benefits from the 6 button controller if you
Yeah.
have one available. Yeah, whoops. Just dropped my controller. But yeah. And yeah, and that reminds me of last week's episode where we talked about the Sega Mega Drive Mini 2 or the Sega Genesis Mini 2, which came in the West with the 6 button controller one. but yeah, and it's really useful for fighting games and for
Mhm.
Comic Zone. There we go, for Comic Zone as well. Okay, yeah. So Ken, thank you very much for joining me. Really enjoyed this conversation about Comic Zone. Glad to see that I'm not the only one that remembers and like fondly remembers playing this game.
Yes, so if they make a new one and put a two-player mode, we've got 2 players right here. See?
There we go. There we go. That's it. And hopefully, people listening to this will also get on board and let us know in the comments. By the way, if you're watching the YouTube
Yes.
version, are you a Comic Zone fan? Because I really want to know the usual people that come on this show, like friends of ours. Do you want to come on the special Comic Zone episode? I don't really know too much about it. It's too hard. Weak. They're weak. But are you? Are you strong enough to tackle Comic Zone? Are you a fan of Comic Zone? Let us know. Let us know in the
Let
comments.
us know.
Yeah,
Let us hear you.
So, Ken, where can people find you, and where can people find your works?
Well, Sega www.sega-16.com is the website. We are uh, publishing. I normally publish 2 to 3 articles a month, but now there are just so many new games coming out that I'm basically putting up preview and teaser articles whenever they're announced. Um, uh, the website has shifted focus over the years. We still cover Sega's history and document that, but we're also really pushing to cover independent and retro developers and their
Mhm.
products. So you can find us at the website www.sega-16.com. We're on Blue Sky. We're on Facebook. Yeah, so you can find us. You can join our forums. We still have forums. We have a Discord, but we still have forums. Our forums are completely revamped, updated, and state of the art. So join. keep forums alive and help keep gaming communities conversations accessible and indexed in search engines so that you can find them when you need to know about a game or some part of Sega's history. And so yeah, we're always welcome to uh, we're always welcoming new people. So join us.
Mm. Join us. Yes. Very good.
So,
By the way, I mentioned you were an author at the start of the show. So, where can people find your amazing books?
You can find my books on Amazon. They're available on Amazon. I have 4 books out right now. One is on the history of Sega of America and covers over 40 games. Interviewed 100 people for that book. The second one is on Sega's arcade history, Sega Arcade Revolution, that covers 62, the deep um, history of 62 of its games, plus the company's history from 1973 to 2001. I have a book on Nintendo's arcade history and one on Williams Bally Midway. And hopefully before December or maybe early next year, I have a new book coming out on the history of the Sega Game Gear that covers its history and release in the United States, Japan, Europe, Australia, and South Korea, and has interviews with a dozen developers and former Sega people involved with Game Gear, and has detailed write ups on over 40 games. Yeah, Sega goes handheld. So
There you
that's
go.
coming soon.
Excellent. Excellent. So, that's something I look forward to reading as well soon. It says on Amazon early January. So, hopefully,
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, it was in the fall catalog, but they're in the stage now. They have the cover. They're in the stage now where they are basically laying out with all the images, and
Mm,
then I give it one last look over the proofs to make sure that there are no, there are no errors, and then I have to do an index because all my books are indexed and have full bibliographies. And even though that is very tedious, it takes a lot of time. As a researcher, I find that it is invaluable to have an index. If you want to read up on, I don't know, say, Fantasy Star Adventure or whatever, you don't have to
mm.
thumb through the book and find it. You go to the index, alphabetical order, find it, boom, this page, boom, and you go right to it. Um, so I have to do that. But then, yeah, that's all that's left. Everything else is done. The manuscript has been finalized and edited, and images submitted, covers done. And so it's just that one last look at the index, and it's good to go.
Excellent, excellent. Looking forward to that. So Sega Goes Handheld, A History of the Game Gear and Its Games by Ken Horowitz, coming soon. Go find it on Amazon. Yeah. Yes.
Buy
So
one, buy
as
10.
yeah, buy 10. Buy one for all your friends. Yeah. And yeah, so that's it for our episode on Comic Zone. As for myself, we're here, the Sega Lounge, every week with a new episode. Next week we'll do the monthly news episode, so monthly Sega news episode. I'm really excited for November on the show. To be honest, we have some very cool stuff, including some developers are coming on the show. But that's all I can say for now.
No,
But stay tuned for that. For more Sega Lounge, and find us on YouTube. By the way, if you're watching this on YouTube, leave us a like. And I never say this; it's a very YouTuber-like thing to say, but it's actually helpful. So if you're enjoying the show, just leave us a like, drop us a comment, subscribe to the show so you can get our new episodes as soon as they are available, and also our 30 seconds of Sega Education shorts. They're always fun to make, and they're always very popular. Actually, short form content is very popular these days. People with their shortest attention spans. Yeah, I can relate. I can relate. But yeah, so if you're
join the
into that as
Discord.
well, enjoy the Discord. Yes, yes.
Mhm.
Which is not really that something that we do a lot, but yeah, there's Discord. But either way, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Ken, thank you very much for joining me for another
Oh,
episode
thank
of the Sea
you.
Lounge. Always a
Anytime.
pleasure
Thank
to
you for
have you.
having me.
Yeah, thank you very much,
Thank you.
and all the best for the book and for Sega 16. We'll be back
Thank you.
next week. So, bye bye, everyone. See ya.
Bye bye.